My hands were shaking before I even got my key in the door, and I didn't know why yet.
I'm Caleb Hayes.
I'm 30 years old. I fix broken bodies for a living because I'm a combat medic in the army, and I had just spent 8 months patching up men who didn't ask to get hurt. Now I was standing outside my own apartment in Charleston at midnight, 17 days ahead of schedule, and something felt wrong before I even turned the knob. I hadn't told anyone I was coming back early. Not my mom, not my buddies, not Nora. Nora Bennett was my roommate. We'd shared this apartment for almost 2 years, ever since rent got too expensive to handle alone and a friend of a friend put us in touch. She worked 12-hour shifts at the hospital downtown, the kind of job that eats your sleep and gives you nothing back but a paycheck and tired eyes. I used to tease her about falling asleep standing up. She used to tease me about eating crackers for breakfast like a raccoon. I opened the door slow, out of habit more than anything. 8 months of watching for tripwires does something to a person. You stop trusting quiet rooms. The living room was dark. That part made sense. It was late, but the kitchen light was on, and my bedroom door, the one I always shut before I left, was standing wide open. I stood there for a second, just breathing, feeling that old alarm crawl up my spine, the same one that used to go off right before something bad happened overseas. My body remembered danger even when my brain couldn't name it yet. Then I heard something move inside my room. Not loud, not scary exactly, just a small shuffle, like someone shifting their weight on a creaky floor, followed by a voice I knew better than my own heartbeat. "Oh no," she whispered, mostly to herself. "No, no, no." I froze in the hallway. Then I heard her say 5 words that stopped me cold. "You weren't supposed to be here." My stomach dropped. 100 thoughts ran through my head at once. Was she hurt? Was someone else in there with her? Had something happened while I was gone that nobody told me about? I set my duffel bag down as quiet as I could and walked the rest of the way down the hall. What I saw when I looked through that door didn't match anything I'd imagined on the flight home. My bed had fresh sheets on it, navy blue, tucked in tight like something out of a hotel. A lamp glowed soft on my nightstand. My old dog tags sat on top of the dresser, lined up neat, like someone had dusted around them on purpose. And spread across my comforter was a stack of envelopes, maybe 20 or more, each one with a date written in the corner. Nora stood right in the middle of all of it. She was wearing my old army sweatshirt, the gray one with a hole near the cuff, sleeves rolled up past her wrists. Her hair was falling out of a messy bun. One hand was pressed flat against her mouth. The other one held a folded piece of paper that was shaking just slightly, like her fingers couldn't decide whether to hold on or let go. She spun around when she saw me. Her elbow caught the edge of the dresser, hard enough that she winced, and the letter dropped straight out of her hand and landed somewhere near my boots. For one long second, neither of us said a single word. I looked at the letters. I looked at her. I looked at the sweatshirt that was mine but somehow looked more like it belonged to her now. And I had no idea, standing in that doorway, that the next hour was going to answer questions I didn't even know I'd been carrying around for 8 straight months. "I came home early," I said, because it was the only true thing I could manage. Nora stood there frozen, my sweatshirt hanging off her shoulders, cheeks turning a shade of pink I hadn't seen on her before. "I see that," she said back, voice barely above a whisper. I looked down at the envelope near my boots. My name was written across the front in her handwriting, the kind of slanted letters she used when she signed birthday cards. I bent down and picked it up before she could stop me. "Wait," she said, reaching out. "You don't have to." "I already saw my name on it," I said, kind of hard to ignore. She let out a breath that sounded like half a laugh and half a groan, and she dropped down onto the edge of my bed like her legs had given up arguing with her. I sat down next to her, leaving space between us, because something told me she needed room to breathe before she needed anything else. "There's jambalaya on the stove," she said suddenly, like she was trying to change the subject. "I made it for you, for when you got back. I thought I'd have more time to put all this away first." "Put what away?" I asked, nodding at the envelopes scattered across the comforter. She rubbed her face with both hands. "Letters," she said. "I wrote you letters, the whole time you were gone. I never sent them. Why not? She looked at me like the answer was obvious and painful at the same time. Because some of them said things I wasn't ready to say out loud. My chest went tight in a way that had nothing to do with old injuries. I picked up the envelope I was still holding and turned it over. Underneath my name, in smaller letters, someone had written a line that made my whole body go still. Open this if Caleb comes home and still looks at me like I'm just his roommate. I read it twice to make sure I wasn't imagining it. Nora, I said slowly, what is this? She reached for the envelope like she wanted to take it back, but I moved my hand out of reach without even thinking about it. Her fingers wrapped around my wrist instead, warm and steady, right over the spot where my pulse was pounding harder than it had any right to. Don't, she said quietly. Please don't open that one yet. I looked at her, really looked at her. There were shadows under her eyes from too many night shifts, and a small crease between her eyebrows that showed up whenever she was worried about something she wouldn't say out loud. Okay, I said. I won't open it. I set the envelope down on the dresser, right next to my dog tags, and I turned my hand so it was resting palm up between us. An invitation, not a demand. She looked down at my hand for a long moment. Then she slid her fingers into mine. It wasn't a big movement. It barely made any sound at all. But it hit me harder than anything that had happened to me in the last 8 months. Harder than gunfire, harder than bad news over a scratchy phone line. I missed you, I said, because it was easier to say now that her hand was in mine. More than I let myself admit while I was gone. Her eyes went glossy, but she blinked it back and gave me a small, crooked smile. I missed you too, she whispered. Every single day. For a second, the whole apartment went quiet, just the hum of the refrigerator down the hall and the sound of both of us breathing a little unevenly. Then she leaned in, slow enough that I could have pulled away if I wanted to. I didn't want to. Her lips met mine, careful at first, like she was testing whether the moment would hold together or fall apart. It held. I lifted my free hand to the side of her face, and she made a small sound against my mouth that undid something I'd kept locked tight for 8 months straight. That was when her phone buzzed on the dresser once, then twice. She pulled back just enough to glance at it, and I watched the color drain right out of her face. She put a second letter in my hand before I even caught my breath from the first one. This paper was plain and cream-colored, no date, no doodle in the corner like some of the others. Just one word on the front. My name. Something about that made my chest feel tight, like I was standing at the edge of a roof I didn't know I'd climbed. Before you read it, Nora said, just remember I wrote this on a bad night. Every letter tonight has been written on a bad night, I said. I'm starting to think you had a lot of those. She didn't laugh. That told me more than words could. I opened the letter slow, like it might go off. Her handwriting started out neat at the top, careful little loops, and then it got messy line by line, like her hand couldn't keep up with what she was feeling. She wrote about a night after my going away party, when everyone left and I fell asleep on the couch with my boots still on. She wrote that her sister Priya sat with her in the kitchen and said, "You know you're in love with him, right?" And Nora wrote that she laughed it off, because that's what she always did when someone got too close to the truth. I stopped reading right there and looked up. Priya said that? Before I even left. Nora nodded, arms crossed tight over the sweatshirt sleeves. I told her she was wrong. I was very convincing. I even used hand gestures. But she wasn't wrong. No, Nora said, quiet now. She wasn't. I kept reading. She wrote about the morning I left, how I asked if she'd be okay while I was gone, and how she wanted to say no, wanted to say she'd already started missing the sound of my keys in the door before I was even out of it. She wrote that she didn't say any of that because she didn't want her feelings to be one more heavy thing I had to carry overseas. So she wrote it all down instead and folded it up and never sent it. I lowered the letter slow. My throat felt thick in a way that had nothing to do with the desert dust still stuck in my boots. You should have told me, I said. I know. No, I mean, I stopped and looked right at her. I wish you had, because I spent 8 months telling myself I was just missing home, missing my own bed, my own kitchen. Then I'd get a message from you and carry it around all day like it was something I had to hide. Her eyes went shiny. Look at us. Two grown adults too scared to just say a sentence. Speak for yourself, I said. I've got a medal for bravery. You've got nothing. That got a real laugh out of her. Shaky but real. And right then I stopped caring about being smooth or saying the right thing. I told her plain and simple that I didn't want to be her almost either. That whatever this was between us, I wanted it to be real, not something built out of loneliness and jet lag. Is that what we're calling this? She asked. This? If you want to. She looked at me for a second like she was gathering up courage from somewhere deep down. Yes, she said. If you are. I am. We kissed again, slower this time, more sure of itself than the first one had been. Her hand slid up my arm and mine found her waist, and for a second the whole apartment felt quiet and safe, like nothing outside those four walls could reach us. Then her phone buzzed again on the dresser. She pulled back just enough to glance at it, and I watched her face change in real time, the color draining right out of it. What now? I said. Not really a question anymore, just tired. She turned the screen toward me. It was a photo this time, not a text. Our building, taken from across the street, my bedroom window lit up bright against the dark. Underneath it, one line. Check the closet shelf. My whole body went cold and still, the same way it used to go still right before something bad happened on base. I looked at Nora. She looked at me. Neither of us moved for a second. Someone's outside, I said. Someone's watching our window, she said back, voice barely holding steady. I took her hand without thinking twice about it. We check it together. Not you first, not me first. She nodded, fingers locking tight around mine, and together we walked toward the closet, both of us bracing for whatever was waiting on that shelf. The shelf held a shoebox I didn't recognize, tucked behind my old combat boots like it had been hiding there for months. White lid, piece of string tied around it. A little note stuck on top in Nora's handwriting. For when he comes home. Please tell me this isn't a bomb, I said. It's worse than a bomb, Nora said. It's sentimental. I almost laughed, but my hands were still shaking a little from that photo of our lit window. I lifted the lid slow. Inside was a bag of the coffee I liked, a little carved wooden compass, a photo of us from last Thanksgiving where I was holding a burnt pie and she was laughing so hard her eyes were shut, and 2 tickets to a hockey game happening that Friday. You hate hockey, I said. I don't hate hockey. I hate cold arenas and men crashing into walls on purpose. That's most of the sport. It's a public safety issue, she said. But she was smiling now, nervous and soft. I thought maybe if you wanted we could go. Together. Is this you asking me out? Her chin came up, brave the way I'd seen her get right before doing something hard. Yes, Caleb Hayes. Will you go to a hockey game with me and let me pretend I understand the rules? I will. On one condition. You stop calling it a public safety issue. No promises. I set the tickets down and pulled her close, feeling steadier than I had in months despite everything happening around us. That's when my own phone buzzed in my pocket. Not hers this time. Mine. Pulled it out. Unknown number again. One line waiting on the screen. Ask her why she never mailed the letter about Priya. Nora read it over my shoulder and went stiff as a board. All the warmth drained right out of the room. There's a letter about Priya, I said slowly. It's not what it sounds like, she started. But before she could finish, the buzzer on our building's front door went off, loud and sharp, cutting her words in half. We both froze. My phone buzzed one more time. Come downstairs alone, Caleb, or she finds out what Priya really did. I looked at the message, then at Nora standing there in my old sweatshirt, scared but not backing away from me. I'm not going down there alone, I said. Good, she said. Because I was about to follow you with a rolling pin. We went down the stairs together, hand in hand, and standing outside the glass door of our building was a woman with her coat buttoned crooked, dark hair falling out of a ponytail, holding a folder against her chest like a shield. Priya, Nora said, breath-catching. Her sister raised both hands like she was surrendering. Before you yell at me, just know I panicked. You panicked like someone running a spy operation, Nora said, yanking the door open. Priya's eyes landed on me. You must be Caleb. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm very confused, I said. But go on. Priya took a shaky breath and explained it all. 8 months back, she'd mailed one of Nora's letters to my old address overseas without telling her, hoping it would push us both toward honesty. Came back undelivered when my unit moved locations. She'd been carrying that secret and the letter ever since, and when she saw my window lit up early tonight, panic took over and she started sending the texts and photos from a tablet app, hoping we'd come clean with each other before she had to come clean with us. That wasn't your choice to make, Nora said, voice shaking with anger now, not fear. I know that now, Priya said, tears sliding down her face. For a second, nobody spoke. Then Nora turned to me, and I told her plain and simple that this part belonged to her. She could forgive her sister or stay angry, and either way I'd stand right there beside her. She looked back at Priya. I'm still mad, but I understand why you did it. Priya let out a broken little laugh of relief. So are you too. Together, Nora said, no hesitation at all this time. We sent Priya home once she promised to text when she got there safe. Upstairs, the jambalaya had gone cold and thick on the stove, so we ate cereal out of one bowl at midnight instead, trading spoonfuls, admitting out loud that we were both still scared of what came next. A year later, she still wears that old sweatshirt around the apartment. We went to that hockey game and she only called it a safety issue twice. By spring, we weren't roommates anymore. Just us, 2 toothbrushes, 1 coffee mug, her letters tied with strings sitting out on our shelf instead of hidden in a drawer. Some mornings, watching her make coffee in my sweatshirt with the sun coming through the kitchen window, I still feel like I walked into a room I wasn't supposed to see that night and found the rest of my life waiting there for me.